Amber, it was wonderful to have you here, and my sense is, hearing from staff, that most of Southern Oregon got up early in order to watch the live stream and hear what you had to say. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about your reaction to all this? I mean, here you are, you fly across the country, your first plane ride, and you're getting to see all the monuments from the sky and the like. What was this morning like for you?
It was so surreal waking up in D.C. just because I never traveled. I haven't traveled really anywhere, and I think this is a great place to be. It's full of history, and I'm kind of a history nerd, so it's really nice to see the monuments and just to be here. It's great.
And when you were talking to the committee, you know, obviously you could tell there was a lot of sympathy for what you had to say. What do you think are the couple of things that were most important in terms of what you had to say and that you want senators to remember?
I think it was just for the senators to be, to relate back to the times where they had to go to college, and, many of the senators said that they have children of their own who are going through the same thing, trying to navigate where they want to go and how they're going to pay for it. And I think that was what I really wanted to resonate, is the relatability that a lot of people are going through this same problem. So,
what's striking about it, particularly for senators, is it was so different when we were coming up. I went to school on a basketball scholarship, so I was lucky. But all my friends thought of college as an expense, a big expense, but it was more like buying a car. It didn't dominate your life the way these college debts are going to dominate the lives of young people. How do you see the next few years? Obviously, we're going to keep our eyes open for scholarships, and I think everybody's going to see the extraordinary skills and academic talent you've got. But how do you see all these debts figuring into your years ahead?
Well, I try and look at it as an investment into myself, and this is just the next step. And even though it's really hard to come to terms with, it's just something you have to do. And I'm actually, it's unsettling to know the amount of debt I'll be in, but I'm prepared to pay that off eventually and to, invest in my future and give me opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise.
So your sense is that you're going to go on and be an orthopedic surgeon. You're going to have a chance to make wages sufficient to pay it off, yes. and you've kind of reconciled the debt with your future kind of opportunities. Looking back, are you puzzled as to why people didn't let you and other students in on some of what was available? I mean, I don't get the feeling, listening to this morning and in past conversations, that people like these guidance counselors and others, they didn't get up in the morning and say, let's be rotten to Amber, today. But I think they clearly missed what are important possibilities. I mean, that American Opportunity Tax Credit that I asked about, that could really help you and could have helped you as you were working through these decisions. Did you get the sense that they just weren't keeping up, or what do you think was behind it?
Well, I don't think that their lack of advice was malicious in any way.
Right.
I really think they had great intentions. But as was mentioned earlier, there's just so many students that one counselor has to take care of. Like, we heard ratios of 500 students to one counselor, and that's just so crazy to me that one person is in charge of, helping all these other people navigate their future and find possibilities to go to school. And I don't know if my counselors even were aware of the tax credit or the benefits that were available, but I think they just tried their best with what they were given. So.
Well, your testimony today makes sure that they're going to be aware in the future, and that's why you should feel very good about being here and helping to promote change. I am, though, looking back, really stunned that guidance counselors wouldn't tell you about the difference between loans and scholarships and grants, because people, I think, even with a modest knowledge, know that if there's a big gap there, that means the student is going to be looking at a significant amount in private loans, and they're going to be carrying that around like a boulder on their shoulders. But I gather nobody really talked to you much, about that. And even when you went online and went to the library, you were doing your due diligence as a student. People really, either in the counseling or in the online materials, didn't spotlight that.
Yeah, well, they did try and make it apparent, that there's money you have to pay back, and there's money that will just aid you, and you don't have to worry about paying that back. But I think that their mindset, they kind of embraced debt, that's just something that comes along with going to school. But I don't think they realized how much debt they were kind of embracing.
They just took debt as a given, and they said, look, your education is going to be wonderful, and so if you have this debt, because that's something that we want to change. This idea that big debts are inevitable, I think is something that we've got to push back on, because some debt, it's like a lot of investments. You have a mortgage or something like that. I get that, but kind of resigning a whole generation, yours and future students, to just being up to their eyeballs in debt is something I won't be a part of. So, having finished your testimony, what do you want me to do as a legislator? Kind of summarize, as you did at the hearing, summarize a couple of things that you think would be most helpful to your generation.
Well, the first thing is probably making it apparent to students and aspiring students who want to go to college of the tax benefits. That's a huge thing, just because personally I didn't know about them when I came here or when I was applying for college. Another thing is to probably make I don't know if you can make the colleges do this, but make them accountable for their graduation rates and how many students they are leaving in debt. Because if a student goes to college and takes out all these loans and then somehow doesn't finish college, those loans aren't going away, and it kind of incapacitates students who are trying to live. So
we're certainly gonna start the accountability with this legislation that I think I mentioned to you, called Know Before You Go. Because if you have one school over here with high graduation rates, low remedial graduation, and students making good wages when they graduate, and then you have a school over here with bad marks on all those kind of counts, low graduation, lots of remedial education, their students don't do well in jobs, this school is going to have to clean up its act, or they're going to go out of business, because somebody else is going to, in effect, because the other school is held accountable, somebody else is going to do better. And that's why I mentioned Oregon State. I mean, the second that I proposed this legislation, they said, we're happy to tell people about what kind of salaries people have and how students do well here and do well in life. So I think your message in terms of saying schools have to be held accountable is hugely important. They're getting such enormous sums of money from the federal government that the idea, and you touched on it in your testimony, that, well, maybe they're going to get all these significant sums from the federal government, and then what a surprise, they're going to turn around and raise tuition by essentially that same amount. I thought you said that very well.
Oh, thank you. And I think it's just like a great mindset for colleges to be open with their students, and to make the statistics kind of apparent of emphasis on their graduation rates and how many students will take out loans and end up not finishing college. And because I think that's something students don't really grasp fully as they attend college, is that you're going to have these loans no matter what, even if you're making enough money to pay them back or not.
That's a great way normally to end a discussion, where you said the colleges have to be more open to getting this kind of information. But let's end this little discussion with any questions you might have of me.
Yeah, I did have a few questions.
I'm not surprised.
So when you attended college, you said that you were on a basketball scholarship. Right. But do you know if the tuition was nearly as high as what public colleges are usually?
It wasn't as high then as it is now. I mean, my generation saw college as a big expense, and it was more like buying a car. Now, when you pay for college, it's getting close to buying a house.
Yes.
I mean, after buying a house, your payments for your college, particularly since you're going to be an orthopedic surgeon, these are going to be some of the biggest payments that you make throughout your life. So that is a real difference. There was something that was more manageable back in the day when college kids were coming up with me than there is today. Today, when I think about these debts, I think about how young people are going to be able to save. I think about how young people are going to be able to buy a house. I think about how this debt, the way I compare it, is like a boulder on their shoulders that they're carrying around. It was not that way in my day.
Oh, well, I wish that was, the times had changed a little bit. But
We're gonna see what we can do in this office, and since you made so many fans, to make sure that every possible opportunity for your talent to be recognized. And when we hear about scholarships and grants and the kinds of things that a young person like yourself, who's going to work 36 hours, a week at the Dairy Queen and basically set aside every nickel in order to be an orthopedic surgeon, you're exactly the kind of role model that we want colleges to recognize in the future. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier to talk about what you bring to a college after your stellar performance today.
oh, thank you so much.
It's great having you.
Thank you.
Okay.